wondering if we're finished. But, apparently we go on. So in the interest of time, all protocols have been observed several times, so I will just say good afternoon to everyone as I use this opportunity to introduce our guest speaker for today. From the small rural community of Higgins Land, St. Anne, to the boardrooms of major U.S. hotel brands and global impact through her non-profit, Jacquel Tucker. Her life is a living testimony that faith, purpose, and perseverance can turn humble beginnings into extraordinary legacy. Jacquel Tucker is a proud 1989 graduate of Westwood High School, where she served as a student leader, cheerleader, netball team player, track athlete, and co-editor of the school's 1989 yearbook. She is one of 9 siblings, raised by her father, a New Testament Church of God pastor, and her mother, a dedicated youth director. Shortly after Westwood, Jacquel earned a full academic scholarship to the University of Maine, where she was awarded the university's Presidential Pin Award for academic excellence in the field of hotel and restaurant management and tourism. This launched a pivotal journey that would take her from a supervisory role at the Jamaica Tourist Board office in Outaouais to prominent leadership roles at major hotel brands in top markets such as New York, New Jersey, and Atlanta. Today, she is an accomplished entrepreneur, non-profit founder, and published author of the Amazon best-selling Power, Prayer, and Praise, a 52-week devotional guide for entrepreneurs and marketplace leaders. Jacquel is the founder of the J. Tucker Group, a consulting and training company that has helped over 100 purpose-driven professionals successfully launch their businesses and nonprofits across the USA. Her company also delivers branding, consulting, and training solutions to hospitality industry visitors. Most notable, she recently developed the official onboarding and customer service training video for curbside customer service agents at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, the busiest airport in the world. And she equips 7-figure companies to harness the power of branding, AI, and innovation to accelerate their growth and impact. Jacquel is co-founder of the Jamaica Project USA, a non-profit she leads with her husband Sean, with a mission to transform rural schools and communities in Jamaica. They also provide resources to lower-income communities in Georgia, feeding up to 2,000 families per month at the height of the COVID pandemic. Since their launch in 2016, their nonprofit has served 8 parishes in Jamaica, provided critical resources to schools and communities in Jamaica and Georgia, completed 12 school improvement projects, awarded 135 educational sponsorships, all of which have totaled to over $1 million. They are now preparing for their biggest project, to build their first rural community resource and development center in St. Anne. I thought I was going to say Trelawney, but no. Jacquel lives in Georgia, USA with Sean and remains anchored in her faith and her life mission to empower and equip others to thrive in excellence and fulfill their God-given purpose so that they can leave their indelible mark in the world. Our guiding scripture is Philippians 4, verse 13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me to welcome Mrs. Jacquel Tucker.
Good afternoon, everyone. Reverend Harrison, for that warm introduction. You know, sometimes you have your head down doing all this work and you never stop to think, what are the results of what I'm doing? So I'm listening to all this, and thank you for putting it in that context. But we all know the work is never done. So one of my favorite scriptures is Jeremiah 29, verse 11 as well. For I know the plans that I have for you. Plans to prosper you. Plans not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. And isn't that why we are here today? We're here to celebrate hope and the future with all of our graduates. That's right. Imagine, if you will, with me, prior to my protocols, I'll just share this with you. Imagine, if you will, with me, sitting on the steps of your veranda in the country, for those of you who still do. You're wearing the same old uniform from the year before. You're wearing the same old shoes, the only pair of shoes you have, which has been patched countless times by your grandfather with old tires. Imagine, if you will, with me, not having most of your school books, not having most of your supplies, or any hygienic items. Imagine, if you will, with me, sitting on the steps with your sister, and there is no money to take you to boarding to Westwood on this September morning. And this would happen year after year after year after year for 5 years. That is my story. And my goal today is to show you the power of Jesus Christ. And whatever he has for you, ladies, it will be done. It's not about your circumstances right here. It's about the will of God on your life. So I want to just say this afternoon to the Westwood High School principal, Ms. Karen Francis, to all the board members, to the faculty, Westwood alumni, Westwood All Girls Association. Let's give it up for this association. They are doing some serious work. To all of our parents, our special guests, and of course, to our esteemed graduate, whom we're all here to celebrate. I thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I ask that you pray for our strength and endurance. My hubby and I, we just wrapped up our annual mission trip where we impacted 4 schools, including Westwood. We completed 2 improvement projects. We served in Spanish Town. We basically did all the things. Tomorrow morning we get up, and bright and early we will be in Clarendon with our friends and brother from another mother, Mr. Colonel Charles, to serve in Clarendon as well. So I just thank you for the prayers that have been prayed, because prayer is so important, not just for myself, but for all the graduates. Prayer brought you here. So I stand here today, I am filled with such great gratitude for Westwood High School. And I am in awe of the magnitude of the power of God. And whatever he says, his word will not return void. So my story is from the hills of St. Anne in Higgins Land to making a global impact in the world. So my goal for you today is dare to dream, dare to achieve, and I'll just back that up for the impossible. Anyone can achieve any dream or anything, but I'm here to tell you it's the impossible that matters for God. This starts with building your character, knowing who you truly are and whose you are, knowing what your purpose is in life, and also knowing where God has placed you and what your lane is. So Westwood isn't just a school. Anyone can go anywhere and learn anything in any book. What I'll say about Westwood is, Westwood is a training ground. It was a training ground for building my faith, working in excellence, because we didn't show up here for school books, we showed up for excellence. And also discovering my true identity and purpose. It was a training ground for building solid relationships and a sisterhood, ladies and gentlemen, that is unmatched in the world. No matter what year we graduated, no matter where we are in the world, when you meet a Westwood girl, they are sisters for life. My hubby has watched us. We did a trip to the UK. We hadn't seen a Westwood old girl for 30 years, and we met up. And even if we don't know each other, all you have to say is, you go to Westwood? And once the answer is yes, the hug starts, and we start talking 90 miles an hour. And he would say, but you don't know her. And I would say, yes, we know her. She went to Westwood. And that's the sisterhood we have. I have not seen this anywhere else. Ladies, that is what you will experience. When you leave here, even if you haven't seen each other for 40 years, when you meet up, it's that unbreakable bond that will hold you together. This also happened with National Education Trust. I remember, Ms. Francis, we were hosting a luncheon for teachers, or a nonprofit was hosting a luncheon for teachers at the Royalton in 2018. We brought 60 teachers and principals from all over the country to provide resources to these teachers, bring some pastors in to pray for them, and let them know that they're not alone in this fight. I picked up the phone, I called National Education Trust, the director, and I said, you know, we need your help in some clearance documents. And, you know, she was her professional self, and, you know, I didn't feel the conversation was going so great. And then she looked at the list of schools coming, and she said, oh, Westwood's going to be there? And I said, yes. And I'm a Westwood old girl. Oh, from that, it was, you got to Westwood? Okay, don't worry, everything all right. And it was all right. So we are global leaders everywhere you go. Westwood was a training ground for building my character and career. The school song says, oh, Westwood sitting there upon a hilltop as if you were a tribute to the sun. Oh, alma mater, you have helped to build up the careers of 1,000 little ones. And I am so grateful that I was one of those little ones. Learning discipline, consistency, integrity, humility, grace, grit, resilience, and resourcefulness. It was a training ground for my future success, because if you want to accomplish great things in life, you have to start right here, right now. It's where you start. Not when you say, oh, I'll just wait till a better school comes along or a better job comes along. Do excellence wherever you are. Or esteemed graduates, I am here as a witness to tell you that if you can make it through Westwood for 5 or 6 years, you can make it anywhere. And so this is a heartfelt round of applause that I want you to share for every single teacher, principal, and parent who have poured into all of these graduates to equip and empower them to be able to walk across the stage today. So can you give them a hand? And as I look at you today, I can say I truly understand your journey. I don't feel far from it. I understand where you've been, how you've grown, what you've learned, and to never forget that. It has been so difficult, especially for a lot of you parents who never knew, will I be able to get my child into school this year? Will I be able to get them on the bus to get to school to learn? So I want you to give it up for all the parents here who have sacrificed so much so that this moment right here can happen. Westwood's discipline, their lesson in discipline and consistency is unmatched. It starts with answering all the bells. The bells to wake up in the morning, the bells to shower and get dressed, the bells to leave your dorm, the bell to get to breakfast, the bell that breakfast is over if you miss it, too bad, the bell that says get to devotion, the bell that says get to class, take a break, go to lunch, the bell that says end your school. And this is where my non-boarders were missing out. the bell that says, get to the dorm, get in your white dress, get to supper, get to bed, lights out. And you wake up the next day to do it all over again. And I am telling you right now that discipline and consistency is built through habits. And so imagine after 5 years, you will never be the same. You will never leave the way you came in. Westwood helps you discover who you truly are. So I was from the country, right? They would pretty much say I'm a bush girl. Nobody knew where I was from. For the first 2 years at Westwood, I was very quiet. I spoke very low. I was kind of invisible. I thought I was. And so all people knew about me was that I was first or second in my class. And whenever you would ask everybody else, just like when you ask a Jamaican in America where they're from, everybody seems to be from Kingston, St. Anne's Bay, Brownstown, Ochi. And it was the same here, so you felt like nobody knows where I'm from and nobody knows my name. But my teachers did. They saw the potential. And then the sisterhood I was building, they saw the potential. And they would say, you're good, you should do track. Miss Johnson would say, you should join the netball team. So by the 9th grade, I was everything. I was everywhere. I found and discovered who I was. So I was doing cheerleading, netball. I was a student leader. I was in the Key Club. I was just basically dancing my heart out on this stage as these young ladies did. And I just want you to give it up for the performances here today. Because when I saw these performances, I wanted to turn to Miss Francis and say, give me a uniform, I'm coming back. It was just so good that I truly, truly missed the connection that I had here. So Westwood teaches you resourcefulness and resilience. When we sat on the steps of my mom's house waiting to get into Westwood, for those of you who still have a tuck box or know about the tuck box, anybody here know about the tuck box? You would bring that into Westwood and everyone would come with their cornflakes and American snacks and all the really great things. And my sister and I would open ours and it would be a lonely bag of bulla. That was it, no cheese, just some bulla. So here's the resourcefulness that Westwood taught us. Because in no time, when you opened our top box, we had American cookies, we had Pringles, we had everything. And this is a life lesson. And not just a life lesson, but a business lesson. We found out what the other girls valued, and they wanted some bulla. Their parents didn't give that to them. And we wanted all the American things. And so the lesson of the great exchange started, which to this day helps me in business. Finding out what you have that other people value, because everything you have is not for everybody. The Bible also says, don't cast your pearls among swine. So you have to know your circle that you're building. You have to know for sure the job that you are taking, the school that you're going, recognize and appreciate who you are and the value that you bring to the world. Westwood also taught me to dream beyond my current circumstances. And that's what you're being taught today. For those of you who remain at this school, that's an important lesson to follow. Now remember what my circumstances were. And I could easily have said, gosh, there is God, there is nothing that's going to happen for me. When I left Westwood in 1989, my parents didn't have the money for continued education. And so I did the next best thing, everybody. I started going to Brownstown Community College. And it wasn't ideally where I wanted to go, but that's all that I had. I noticed some of my friends at Westwood, they were getting scholarships. Several of them were getting partial scholarships, and I said, God, where is my scholarship? You know that I barely made it through the school financially. Where is my piece piece of the pie, and it was silent. God was silent. So I'm wandering my way through Brownstown Community College, and after 6 months, I knew it was not going to work for me. I was trying to do something a little bit more serious. One day a professor came to me, and he says, and I'm going to paraphrase what he said because it was pretty raw, but he said, "I see better for you." So I just want to acknowledge the people in our lives and in your life that no matter where you end up, they will turn to you and believe for you and say, "I know there is better for you." That is such a great encouragement. He handed me a scholarship form and he said, "Fill this out." Now I never looked at it because a girl from in the bush, thousands of Jamaicans applying for this, there was no one speaking for me. But God was speaking for me. God is speaking for all of you. Doesn't matter what the journey's gonna look like. He's already worked it out. You just have to stay in your lane and follow his light. Obediently, I filled the form out, didn't even look at what scholarship this was. I went for an interview in Kingston. There were so many students there. And they asked me a few simple questions, and one comment was, "You have a nice smile." And I said, "Thank you very much." And I left, and I went home, and I said, "Me not get it, that's not for me." Not even 2 weeks later, I got a telegram. In those days, anybody know what a telegram is? Young people now know. It was a piece of paper that you would get quickly. It should be like an email, but on foot. And it says, "You've been awarded a full scholarship for hotel, restaurant management, and tourism to the University of Maine." And of course, I grabbed every paper trying to see what did I win? And it was 100% paid. I was begging God for a half a scholarship, a quarter scholarship. And he said, "Wait, girl, wait your turn." And so sometimes you have to wait your turn because you might miss the fullness of what he desires for you. It's not about whatever people are getting. Your turn will come. Adults, your turn will come. You've made the sacrifice for these students here. God sees it, and your turn is going to come too. And I tell you this, I did not pay for a pencil at Westwood. When one of my girlfriends, Nancy Wright, called me and we were talking about students' loan, and she said, "I went to college to become a lawyer. I'm a lawyer." She's a fantastic lawyer in New York, a Westwood old girl. Yes, we're all over. And she said, "I owe like $30,000 in loan." And I said, "I don't owe a thing, not even a pencil. I got a stipend for clothing. I got to live with an American family for 6 months, and then I got a stipend for an apartment. And who but God? Who but God?" And what I'll say to this, it's about dreaming for the impossible, because sometimes we dream too small because of our circumstances. There was no one from my rural community. By the way, people still cook on wood fire there. There is no indoor plumbing. It's basically still as it was in time. And there was no one there for me to say, "Wow, this person made it. They've done phenomenal." The dreams were limited there, and so that was what I was dreaming. But God showed me through the power of this scholarship to dream bigger. And so going from one of the younger supervisors that was at the Jamaica Tourist Board office, reporting stats to the Minister of Tourism monthly on the cruise ship piers, going on Navy boats that would come in with the U.S. Embassy, and then headed to America, where I really excelled as a director of sales and marketing. I could buy all the clothes I want, all the shoes, all the bags, all the things, because ladies, when you don't have it and you get a little chance, you're buying everything. And you got to show everybody, look at my bag and look at the brand on my bag. But after a while, God is and will mature us. And he will say the real impact in life is not to be successful, ladies. It's not to be successful to acquire all the things. Because after a while, the things mean nothing. But how can you impact one person's life? How can you give somebody hope? And hope is helping one person every day. How can you make their life matter? How can you pour into them? And once you do that, that is the biggest reward. And when you're faithful to that, God will multiply that. Because if anybody had told me that I would be standing in my community of Higginsland when I was 10 years old, trying to trust 2 pounds of flour, some sugar, so my parents could feed us for dinner, sometimes with no meat, that one day I would be standing in a parking lot at the height of COVID in America and watch 10 organizations and individuals lined up, trucks and car after car, and that an 18-wheeler truck would pull up from the United States Department of Agriculture. They said to us, hey, we will give you as many trucks as you need. And for us to stand there and to know that we were about to feed 2,000 families or more, that is the will of God. That's the impossible dream of God. And if the moment was lost on me where I became full of myself and thought, look at me and what we're doing, the driver hops out. And this is the only time we saw this driver. He hops out. And he said, Wagwan Jamaica Project USA. That was the only time we ever saw a Jamaican bus driver. And God was reminding me, remember where you're coming from. It's about grace, it's about humility, and it's about impacting people's lives. And I'll just share a little bit where this faith journey started with me, because I came to Westwood. And a lot of people didn't know this about me. I had, it's beyond incredible, remarkable. But when I was 5 years old, I became really sick. So I was sick for probably close to a year, and no doctor in Jamaica knew what was wrong with me. I lost all my hair. I was skin and bones. The only thing I remember was I liked to eat eggs and pistachio ice cream. Wherever it was, my parents found it for me, because that's the only thing I could keep down. I became skin and bones, and I could no longer walk, so school is out of the question. My dad was a pastor. His church wasn't in the community. He and my mom would leave in the morning, and they would go to church and come back in the evening. And so they would leave my grandfather to watch us. And especially watch over me, because I was such a sick child. Not even the fasting and prayer by the church coming into our house every week helped. My mom was coming back one evening, and as she took the hill up to the house, my grandfather met her, and my grandfather was crying, and my mom says, I knew it was bad because my grandfather doesn't cry. And he shook his head. And he said, while you were gone, she passed away. I want you to imagine for a moment, you have a dead child in the house all day. You don't have a beeper, you don't have a cell phone. What do? You wait for your loved ones to come home and bury this child. And my mom screamed and took off running. And she said, God, you cannot have this baby. The devil, you cannot have this baby. Please, God, don't take my child. My aunt next door, everybody's waiting for her to come home. She comes running, and they started praying over this life. And can I tell you, I can stand here and tell you today, ladies and gentlemen, about the power of prayer. And they prayed this Lazarus child back to life. After that, I wasn't playing around. God knows your purpose. When He puts it in you, if He's telling you to study, study. Because He's going to use education to change your life That's what he was doing for me. Nelson Mandela says this: it's the most important weapon or tool that you can use to change the world. I wasn't playing around with my brothers and sisters. I was so young, 6, 7 years old. If they weren't ready, I was gone. I was walking to alma school one way 4 miles. These kids don't know anything about that. I was walking rain or shine 4 miles. You better go and you better come back. And so I knew the plan God had for me was great because the enemy took me out, and God said not so. So parents, I got to tell you, pray for your children, pray for yourself, and even until death. If God says it is not finished, it is not finished. So you keep going and you press through. And so as I wrap up, I just want to say, hopefully through my story, that you can believe in the possible, no matter what you face. For my teachers and principals here, even if you're from another school, the conditions might not be ideal. We all know the compensation is not great, but you chose to show up. You chose to still show up and pour into these lives here. And so we pray and we thank God for you, that you will continue the charge, because the reward is so much greater than money. I see so many of you crying even as the graduates walk up here, because that is the true reward, changing lives. And to my parents, friends, well-wishers, as we look towards the stage, we can all agree it takes a village. Remember, I told you that we would sit on the steps with no money to go to Westwood. My mom would then say, "We are tried Tessa." She would take off down the street from one house to the next and piece this money together. She would come back and she'd say, "Let's go." And that's how it happened. It takes a village. So let's not get away from that model. I know we all have our individual children, but back in those days, we would get beat by everybody, because they knew what discipline we needed to have, what respect, and they would hold us accountable. Right? So look out for each other's children. When I was in boarding, if we didn't go home the 4th weekend, the parents who came gave snacks to us and made sure we were okay. This is Westwood. This is the environment. I am who I am because God says that's who I am, but He put Westwood in charge of developing me. He has placed every one of us here so that we can grow and build a character, so we can be equipped and qualified to handle the big vision that He's given us. And to all the remaining students of Westwood, please look at this stage, because the way has been lit for you. The accomplishments have been shown that they can achieve, no matter who you are, no matter how you started here. Greatness awaits you. Be respectful to your teacher. Ask the questions. Ladies, I'm going to encourage you to be bold. I told you no one even really knew my voice. And if I were to tell you I would be standing up here in this full circle moment when I was in grade 7 there, I would say, no, not so. Not this girl. But as God would have it, He has us here for a purpose. And finally, to our graduates, there are certainly a lot of tassels in the world, isn't there? Everybody's having graduations right now. But from walking in your shoe to where I am right now, I'm going to tell you something, that this particular tassel, it's definitely worth the hassle of what you've been through. Your circumstances doesn't define right now where God is taking you. He's building skills in you, and it's the knowledge that you're acquiring will take you where you need to go. Remember to know who you are and know whose you are. From God placed you in your mother's womb, He had a purpose for you. He had a calling on your life. His word will never return void. It will always be true. Life has twists and turns, but just follow. Just follow the path God's taking you on, because He's refining you in the fire. You're building your resilience. You're building your grit. You're becoming stronger. Also, do not strive for good. Jim Collins wrote this book, From Good to Great. Good is the enemy of great. Good is the new average. It doesn't matter what next school you go or what job you go on. And if everybody is cutting corners, skipping out, showing up late, and doing all the things, strive for excellence. Strive for excellence. You are unique, and God has called you to do great things with your life. The great moment starts with doing the best you can right where you are. And as I close today, I just want to wish you Godspeed. He will never forget you in your darkest times. Just call on the name of Jesus and just believe that His word will be so. He will provide complete strangers in your life. So don't look to your parents and your family sometimes as the answer. Always look to God. And I pray that His grace and favor will always rest upon you. I pray that the next Prime Minister, the next female Prime Minister of Jamaica will come out of this school. The next world-acclaimed doctor and scientist will come out of this school. I see the talent here today, and through God, all things are possible. And I will say, run your race. Run your race well, because there is a day, not just these graduates, but a day when we will all stand before God. And what we want to say to God is, even if I didn't get to go to America, or wherever else we're trying to go, but wherever I was at, I used what God gave me. And I can say to God, I gave and I used every single thing you gave me. I laid on the line and I became the best I could where I was, and I helped somebody along the way. I pray that God will bless you all, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today.